Hi guys, back again. Okay, so today we're talking about, and I'm standing up because I've got a bad back. We're talking about you cannot trust people pleasers. And I should know because I was one. And you cannot trust us. Now, back in the day when I was a people pleaser, I would say yes when I meant no. So how could you trust me? I couldn't trust myself. I was conditioned, programmed to say yes and be a nice little girl and be reasonable and, never make anyone uncomfortable and take responsibility for everyone else's feelings. And so I'm not that person anymore. And now I can say no. And do you know what, people don't like it when you say no. They go, oh, I don't know what's happened to Stella. She's actually not as nice as she used to be. She's not as kind and giving and reasonable and go with the flowy. No, because I actually learned to be assertive and say no when I meant no. I actually learned to be loyal to myself as opposed to loyal to everybody else. And so you cannot trust a people pleaser because they are going to say yes and nice things to your face, and they're going to slate you behind your back, or they're going to, repress all that, what they really want to say, and it's going to come out sideways. And so they're going to talk about you behind your back. So I think you can spot a people pleaser because they tend to talk about other people in a negative way behind their back. You will know them by their fruit. I was, the person that would talk about people behind their back because I was a chronic people pleaser and I had to say yes and be nice. Be a nice girl. Otherwise people wouldn't love me, approve of me, and they would abandon me. And that was a childlike stance they brought into adulthood, and it just doesn't work. So I know when I'm, even with clients that are lovely, I realise I have to be very careful. And that's why I always say to clients at the end of the session, did you want to come back next time? Did you want to come back? Not, I think you need to come back, or maybe, I do encourage people to do 6 sessions sometimes and commit to that, but they can do it at now that's something, they can do it fortnightly, weekly, whenever, but that is 6 weeks. I don't think that's a lot to ask. But that said, I always say, generally, not always, but 99% of the time, I'll say, no, go away and think about it. Go away, think about what we talked about. Think about what I've suggested. If you want to go ahead, get back in touch, because I know that people will people please you in that moment. They'll go, oh yeah, I really want to do it. And maybe they do. But I always make sure I tell people if I think they're a bit of a people pleaser, which most people are, I think, who are struggling in this world and have issues with depression, anxiety, stuff like that. They tend to be chronic people pleasers. So they'll want to please you. And the thing is, I don't want them to please me. It's not their job to please me. It's my job to please me. It's my job to help them become more aware of how that people pleasing isn't working for you. The people pleasing in you is keeping you disconnected. It's keeping you avoiding the uncomfortable truth here. And there is a big uncomfortable truth that you were conditioned to keep everyone happy. And it's not your job to keep everyone happy. It's your job to keep yourself happy. And when you tell a people pleaser that, it's like, you can just see the look on their face as if like it's so foreign to them. And they can be very judgmental of other people who are assertive because they've somehow taken the message that they're not allowed to be, and so they really don't like it when other people are. So often, more than not, people pleasers will attract other people pleasing people, or people that will take as opposed to give, because that they can. That's just the way they're set up. It's like you recreate this pattern of bringing people into your life that will just recreate that pattern for you until you wake up from it and realize, in that moment. And the one thing, people struggle, I say to them, but you're betraying yourself. If you say yes when you mean no, you're betraying yourself, and then ultimately you'll betray them. And you being a people pleaser, you being this nice person that you think you are, well, you're not then, are you? Because on some level, you're lying. You're lying about what you really think, about what you really want, maybe unbeknownst to you. I'm not saying people do this fully conscious, because I don't think they do. They're just running out of those old paradigms and patterns that they created because they had to survive, and they're still working out of them. And this is what you have to wake up to. You cannot trust a chronic people pleaser, or even a little slightly people pleasing person. And I can speak from experience because I was one. You couldn't have trusted me. I've told you in other videos, people would say, oh, do you want to come out for coffee? I'd go, oh yeah. And then I'd rock up for coffee feeling resentful, and it would come out sideways in slightly sarcastic comments, or it wouldn't come out, obviously, I was very passive aggressive. It would come out in other ways. And then I would feel this anger towards them, but really I was just angry towards me because I didn't think through, did I really have the capacity, the time, the energy? I remember times, it didn't happen every day, but I remember I'd go out there and I'd be like, oh my goodness, why am I here? I need to be at home doing this, and this. And I'd resent them, begrudge them, I'd get angry with them, but really, it was down to me. They just asked me out for coffee. And I do think, I talked about it in another video, why I didn't want to ask people out for coffee, because I knew I couldn't say no, and therefore I projected that onto others, and I didn't want to put people in that situation. So I think that was part of it. It's more complex than just, oh, well, I can't say no, so I don't want to say no and hurt them. It was about, well, I didn't want to be put in that position. I didn't want to put anyone else in that position because I know I couldn't trust me. So I kind of intrinsically know I probably couldn't trust them. And so as a people pleaser, I knew that I didn't feel like I could trust others, but really that wasn't about them. That was about me. I couldn't trust me, and I projected that out onto other people. And so waking up to the fact that maybe you are one, and what does that mean for you in your life? And what does that mean long term? Because if I chronically people please all the frigging time, do you know what I mean? If I people please and don't ever listen to what I want and what I need, and live life on other people's terms and make them more important than me, then where does that leave me? Miserable, fed up, depressed, anxious, lonely, mistrusting, don't know my own reality, because it's never, it could never be about me because I'm always in survival mode. And then you wonder why life doesn't really work out, or life is pretty miserable, or you feel annoyed. Now, don't get me wrong, you might just be a people pleaser with a couple of people, but everyone else you can be honest with. That's because you feel safe enough to be honest with, and those people help you feel safe, because maybe they're quite healthy people. But it doesn't matter, even if you are a chronic people pleaser with one person, and that could be your boss. You see, that's kind of tells you a lot about yourself. It's like, well, if I'm good with all these other people, but this is the person I struggle to be honest with, and that's because you know that they won't like your no, they will probably judge your no, they might even punish your no, then really that's where your work is. And it might not be everyone, it might just be one person, but really that's a good thing, because they're revealing something about you that all these other people don't actually trigger or instill in you or bother you. So it could be just one person. So, sometimes you have to look at it from that perspective. You might not be a chronic as in need to please everybody. And I was listening to someone the other day, and if you've been brought up with parents that are, I don't know, a bit demanding or overbearing, maybe the type of parents that you're their kid, right? So when they see you, even as an adult, they insist on, giving you a kiss on the lips. And I think that's, it's just interesting because, and you might not want to be kissed on the lips, but it's something you've always done, something they've always done. And it's like, they insist, it's like, want to kiss you on the lips. And I feel like, it's very disrespectful, because it doesn't matter, so I think this is where parents, it's like, no, you're my kid, so I can do what I want, I can take what I want, I can kiss you on the lips. And I don't know how you feel about that. Personally, I just don't feel that. That's a bit icky to me. It's like, if both parties, you want to kiss your mum on your lips and it's not a problem for you, but is that something you really want to do? Or is it just something that's always happened? Oh, give us a kiss. Oh, give us a hug and smother you with their loving. And is it just something you don't want to do, but you can't bring yourself to not do it because, you'll upset your mum? Or, are you so chronically people pleasing that person? Now, it could be the son and the mother. I think that can be a real dynamic for a lot of people. It's like sons and their mothers, and believe me, I've worked with lots and lots of men, and that has been a huge issue. And of course, from the perspective, it looks like loving and mothering, but actually it can be quite engulfing or overwhelming, or just off. It just doesn't work. And as a son, I think, in my experience and the people I've worked with, that is a big problem for a lot of men, to actually, don't really like that. Especially physical attention like that is a tricky one, because having worked with a lot of people who have struggled with addiction, they might feel bad in saying no to a woman's advances. So say even when they go to AA and NA, some men find it quite overwhelming that women perhaps want to come in for the hug, and it might just be someone but it's like they don't want that to happen, but they're so adverse to actually going, would you mind, I'd rather you didn't. And just that little, it's like, I think men find that harder than women, because I know I've had experience of working with men and women, it seems to be a bit more appropriate to say, would you rather not? And obviously some women struggle with that, but I found men really struggle with that, because in some respects, they've never really learned that their body is their responsibility. If you had a parent who was very smothering or mothering or demanded or, kissed you on the lips or gave you hugs when you didn't really want them, a lot of men will just go with it, even if they don't want to. And for me, teaching people to take responsibility of their bodies and actually say no to things they don't want. And this is, I think, a bigger issue than people understand, whereby men struggle to actually have those healthy boundaries where they can sort of push back against some of that touchy-feely stuff. And I think it's tricky. It is tricky because I realise they can be chronic people pleasers, I know a lot of men who, just want to please and want to do things for others and do struggle to say no, but you can't trust them. And this is why I think people act strangely. The people that were in a relationship and then they just bugger off and go, no, I can't do this anymore. And you're like, what's that about? Is it because they've been chronically people pleasing people their whole lives, and women too? But I'm finding this real trend of people just kind of going, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And I think that's what's happening right now. People are saying, no, I'm not going to people please anymore. I'm waking up to what I've been conditioned to believe is the right way to behave. Hasn't worked for me. It's left me deeply unhappy. And so I'm going to, go and do this over here. And it's actually leave partners, leave relationships, leave jobs, leave lives, leave kids. And that works both ways. I'm just saying I'm seeing a lot of it, a bit of a trend at the moment where people aren't putting up with what they used to put up with. They're actually having a voice, finding their voice, telling people what they really think and feel. And I love that because I want to encourage people to say no if they don't really want to do something. And a lot of people don't like it. It's like, but we have to give permission to people to say no, whether we like it or not. And for me, I've learned to take a no and give a no. And so this is what I'm teaching others who are chronically people pleasing, because that I don't think is a life worth living, when you're constantly living to meet everybody else's needs and you don't even know what you want or what you need, and you have no idea how to live life on your terms because you've lived your whole life on everybody else's. And I don't think that leads to anything good. And so you cannot trust people pleasers. You know, I know because I was one, and I couldn't trust me, and therefore I projected that onto others and I couldn't trust them. It separated me. It disconnected me. So you cannot trust people pleasers. So if you are one, then you have to wake up to the fact that this isn't working for you. It's not getting you what you want or what you need, and it's never going to get you what you want and what you need. You're actually just playing out a role that helped you survive in childhood that you're still actually playing out in today's world. And you think, you know, and a lot of it is you don't like the feeling of guilt, and it's toxic guilt. You haven't done anything wrong. If you don't want to do something you don't want to do, if you don't want to be kissed on the lips or hugged or touched or poured over, then and it's interesting because we would very much say that to women, but I'm actually saying that to men. You don't have to put up with that kind of behavior from anybody, women or men. And so you have to learn to step up and say, and you can say it politely. You don't have to be mean or angry or harsh. You just say, no, I'd rather you not do that, please. And if they don't listen and respect your no, then you know who you're dealing with. You're dealing with someone who's a chronic boundary buster and doesn't respect you. And when you start to respect yourself, you kind of demand that from others. It's like, and in the beginning, you might have to do it verbally. No, sorry, you know, I mean, and this is where you've got to be congruent. You can't just say, oh no, stop doing that. You've got to say, no, would you mind not doing that, please? I don't like it. And you can say it with a smile on your face. But say it like you mean it. Don't be like, oh, don't. Say it like you mean it. You've got to give up the need to be liked and approved of. And that's the courage we all have to bring to the game. And this is what I want to encourage you to do. At the end of this year, lay those things down. Lay those things down. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to disrespect myself. I'm not going to betray myself. I'm going to think about myself in a very kind and loving way, not a self-absorbed, it's all about me. You know, it's a kind and loving, respecting, caring of self stance that we need to hold. Because you're important, you're worthy, and you deserve to be free. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be living in peace. And you have to take up that as a kind of right. I have a right to get my needs met. I have a right to say no. And please put yourself at the center of everything, not in a it's all about me thing. It's because life is all about you. It is all about you. And if you don't put yourself at the center, then no one else is. And it's no one else's responsibility but yours to keep yourself safe, to take care of yourself, to respect yourself, to honor yourself. That's a healthy human being. That's someone you can be in relationship with. That's someone that you can trust. You cannot trust the people pleasers, because by definition, they're all about pleasing you. Well, who's pleasing them? Anyway, something to think about. I'll leave it there. And this all ties in to that subtle form of emotional abuse. And the more you wake up to the fact that you are perhaps people pleasing, the more you realize you won't have to experience those subtle forms of emotional abuse. Usually people pleasers are the one that kind of suffer at the hands of those emotionally abusive people, because they're nice, loving people, and they're good people. Of course, some of them are lovely, but maybe sometimes they're too lovely. And this is why a lot of people don't trust people that are really, really nice. Because it doesn't always make them honest. Anyway, something for you to think about. Take what you will. Please like, share, subscribe if you can, or pass this on to someone who you know is a chronic people pleaser and maybe needs a bit of a wake-up call, because you cannot trust them. And I bet they don't think that about themselves, because I don't think I would have. It's like if someone had said to me, well, Stella, I can't trust you. I think that would have been really helpful, actually, if someone had said that. Because I don't know whether you're saying yes because you want to, or yes because you feel like you have to, or you should, or you must. So maybe that's what people pleasers need, someone to challenge them, to say, well, we can't trust you. Anyway, all for now.